Welcome to another episode of the Sippin and Trippin podcast, where we connect with amazing people. Today's topic is monogamy natural for a man? I am your host, Desmond Black, and the person that's sipping and tripping with me today is the host of the Scho-Zone podcast, Mr. Ryan Schofield. On this platform, as you all know, I like to conversate, educate, and entertain. It's an honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have you on my show today. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. It's an honor and a privilege to be on the show today, I must say. I mean, look at me. You got me so nervous I'm breaking out in hives right now. At least that's what I'm going to say that it is. It has nothing to do with having fair skin in a cold winter in upstate New York or anything. But no, it's a real pleasure to be on, man. You know, we've connected a little while back, being the way that us podcasters do. And, I just am happy to help out or be a part of this in any way because I see you putting in that work, and I mean, you're always in the comments on there working, and I'm hoping that it pays off for you, man.
I appreciate that. Appreciate it. Now, real quick. You said upstate. Like, where at upstate New York?
I'm outside of Albany.
Okay. That's a distance from where I'm at. I mean, I'm in New Jersey, but like I know Albany is up there. Um, how's life in Albany?
It's, it's better than it was when I wasn't living in Albany. I'll tell you that much. I'm originally from this area, and
Right.
I went to college out in the Rochester, New York area. And then after graduation, I spent a long time out there. I would argue possibly now thinking of the other side of things, maybe too long. But as I could say, I was kind of finding myself while I was hiding from everybody else.
I got you.
But it's
All
cold,
right.
it's miserable. And I mean, probably the same as New Jersey in that aspect. But, it's where family
So
is.
so it's crazy because a lot of people will say it's brutally cold. I don't think it's brutally cold yet. We just had some snow yesterday, and my car is not winterized, so like that was a struggle coming from work to home. And I probably shouldn't have came home. I was gonna get a room closer to my job, but I just want to be home so I can see my kids today. I'm saying, spend time with the family. So I went up doing that. I just had to put this comment up here right quick. It's that
That
happens. That happens to be my girlfriend. She bought me this shirt, and like, yeah. So
Gotcha. I
I
mean,
get,
it's a
yeah.
nice shirt, man. I mean, I'm not sure I could pull that off. I went pretty plain and neutral. I'm not a flashy guy so much, but no, that's definitely a nice shirt. So she
I
knows how
don't,
to do.
I don't think, I don't think this is flashy though. I think this is more like casual, like you going out trying to, go somewhere nice or whatever. But yeah,
It wouldn't match my rosy face right now.
yeah. I mean, you. I hear you. I'm used to you having the beard and the goatee and all that though.
Yeah, and maybe back if enough people say it, I threw up a Facebook post, to beard or not to beard after I shaved. Most people like me with a beard, but
Right.
my special woman, my fiance, she likes me clean shaven. So for right now, we'll go with that.
Yeah. Now you said fiance. So when did you propose and how did you propose? Because I'm curious.
So it's actually we got engaged coming up on 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And I would not say that this was necessarily, I didn't formally propose as far as, I mean, there is a ring coming in the near future, but it was
Okay.
more or less a conversation of, we've been dating for a couple months now. And it's kind of at this stage of the game, it's what are we doing here? Is this
Right.
actually meant to be? And, she's not from here originally. So I'm kind of learning, there's different ways of going about things. And, the kind of let's not see how this goes because that's just could be wasting time. It's like, how about we make a commitment to each other right here, right now? Let's do this
Mm.
thing.
Right.
And I
Right.
kind of like that idea because, that's kind of the old school way. She's from a very traditional background. And once upon a time, that's how that was. I mean, the idea now where people want to move in together and see if they can handle living with each other, that's not used to be the way it went to. That used to be called living in sin. And not that either of us are deeply religious people, but the idea that people didn't live together until they got married. And the idea is that, that D word never, ever entered the equation. It was always you work
Right.
through your problems. Because I mean, no matter how great a relationship is, there are going to be things that are going to come up. So I
I'm glad.
kind of
I'm
like that
glad.
idea.
Yep.
And the biggest thing I can go on with is where I go on, where some people might say that things happen kind of fast for us. But I look at it as that above all and anything, I can trust her. I don't have to worry about trust with her. And that's the biggest thing. And if you can start with trust, then you can go a lot of places from there.
Now, I love that. I love that. Now, you say it's been a couple months. So, was it a couple months since you known her, or a couple months since the proposal
Oh,
asking
no, no,
or
no. The
dating?
proposal happened just like about, it was probably Friday night, about last week, maybe like February 1st, I want to say, maybe, or February 2nd. We've been together since October. And I mean, it was kind of one of those things of that, once we made the first conversation, like, I mean, it was one of those when we first chatted on the phone and we did a video chat. Eventually, we had to make the decision where I think that it took about us about an hour to hang up on each other. And then from the first time, like, I mean, when we met up the first time, it was just supposed to be like an innocent little date, get to meet each other, feel each other's vibes out in person. And that turned into a whole night to get, not a whole night together, but all of a sudden it
Yeah,
was hey, I'm cooking dinner if you want to stop by for dinner kind of thing. And, went from there. And
right.
since the time that we entered each other's lives, we pretty much have been, inseparable or in constant contact.
So let me ask you. So all right. So all together, how long have you guys known each other?
Since the middle of October.
So as a whole, this is fairly fresh and new. Y'all just met each other and saying, "Hey, let's do this."
Basically,
And you
yes,
got to
because we've had there's it's been just it's just felt right. Like, honestly, since she's entered my life, I can't even really. I mean, I can remember, but it's hard for me to picture life without her at this point. Like, when she had a couple days off, or she went on a trip for a couple days to visit some other friends of hers, and those couple days were weird because I was kind of like I felt lost, where I'm like, oh, there's no chance I'm going to see her today, kind of thing, and that's good and all,
right.
and for the most part of my life, I've really not had that. I mean, I used to be, and I'm sure as we, you know, gather into the discussion at hand here, I was kind of used to joke around that I was the master of the 6 week relationship. And
Mm,
I kind of feel like that was just because mostly I was a flawed person at that point in time too. But I think that I started letting my flaws show because there was a deeper part of me inside of me that knew that this was not something that could last, kind of thing.
right. So you said the 6 week. What did you say, master? Is that what you said?
I mean, I probably should have chose my words carefully. That's an issue I do. But
No,
I
no.
typically had a limited shelf life on how long things
Well,
lasted.
it's okay. Yeah, that's the word you chose. So like, what I'm saying is like, so all right. So break that down for me and the viewers. Like, what exactly you mean by that?
So when I kind of looked at it as I was always a flawed person. And, I mean, everyone still has their flaws or like that, but I would always be somebody that rather than hide things you wouldn't want to know about me, I'd be right out up
Mm,
front about them. Now, what's great about now is I don't have to hide those things or warn anybody about them. A lot of them don't exist because I've grown as a person. But it would just kind of be what are we exactly doing here? Is this just kind of like, we're just kind of I was a party guy, so is this just kind of
mm,
like she's just my party girl kind of thing, whatever, are we
right,
really gonna like build a life together, or is this just gonna be what we do, kind of thing? And
right.
I just kind of maybe I would start putting up those little walls where it seemed like maybe like I had the issue of that I wanted to know that a girl liked me. And then as soon as I knew that she actually really did, I would start finding ways, maybe in subconsciously, to make her not like me, almost kind of thing. But for the
Mm,
most part, I don't say that I had any like, bad breakups necessarily. Things were usually kind of amicable because you know how it is, or maybe you don't know how it is, but you date for a
mm.
little while, you get to know things about certain people, and it's like, okay, like, am I willing to make compromises of some form? I don't really know how to say this without, but I just kind of would look at it as that I can see, or in some cases, they would see the troubles on the horizon a little bit, I guess I would say.
I got you. And and that's apropos because the topic is is monogamy natural for a man, right? So like when you talk about like marriage or relationships, right? That goes back to the whole monogamy thing, and we'll touch bases on that. But let me ask you this first. Well, not really ask you, but like being that you're a podcaster as well, right?
Okay.
Tell the audience that's listening, right, a little bit about your podcast.
So my podcast is called the Scho-Zone. I've been doing this, as I was just telling you. I started doing this. I used to be a stand-up comedian. And at
Mm,
one point in time, that's how I got into the podcasting. And I just kind of always had, with the lifestyle I was living, I always had a story every week to tell or something to kind of to elaborate on. Right now, it started becoming everyone's got a take on something. I'm mostly sports centric. That's what a lot of my life has revolved around. And I honestly didn't know what I was doing. I just figured let's just start doing something because too many times, and I even see this in the forums that we're on, people have ideas for podcasts and they want to do it. And they want everything to be perfect. And it's like, while you're waiting for something to be perfect, you're missing out on good time. So I just kind of
Right.
started hitting record on things. And whether it be a random sports topic I had something on or a current event issue it had going on, for a little while this summer, I was traveling around from Major League Baseball park to Major League Baseball park and kind of documenting my travels on there. Still kind of feeling things out. I mean, for the most part, I would describe the Scho-Zone as just kind of the world according to me, I guess I would say, where, I'm in control of what goes on there. It's kind of venturing off now where I like to have good conversations with, like-minded people or sometimes not like-minded people, and just hearing their
Mm.
stories and hearing their journeys and kind of finding out ways that everybody thinks we're so different or unique. When you really break it down with people, we're not that much difference. We probably have,
Right.
if there were 10 things that define a human being, 7 or 8 of them we're probably usually aligned on, and then there's a couple of them that maybe we were off on. But I believe in, the idea of having discussions about things and not necessarily arguments. So it's just kind of branching out a way of being able to talk to new, interesting people and having people that listen be able to maybe take anything from those conversations. So, it's still a constantly an evolving show, just kind of like I'm a constantly evolving person.
Right. And I like that because that's exactly what it is. Like that's how life works. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people think they're so different. A lot of people want to be superior or think they're superior, but like at the end of the day, we're the same, right? Like because what one person does, another person does, and but people are out for themselves and they don't take the time to think about that, right? Like everybody want to advance, right? Like some people want it more than others. So I feel like to be successful, you have to network, right? Like what me and you do. You have to network. You have to put yourself out there. You need to connect with people. That's the only way to be successful. Because if you don't have that network, if you don't have that backing, how far can you go on your own?
Right. And I mean, that's the whole thing is that everybody has something that they are great at, and it's a matter of finding that. But ultimately, me sitting here in my apartment in Albany, New York, nobody's just going to knock on my door and be like, I think you're good for this. You got to put yourself out there. And,
Right.
I'm always a big guy on quoting movies. And, there's a movie I love called Tin Cup, which is a movie about a golfer. I'm not sure if you're aware of, with Kevin Costner. And there's just so many
Yeah.
quotes I can draw from that one. And I can apply a quote to anything. And one of them is that greatness courts failure.
Mm.
And you have to be willing to take some chances on there. I mean, I'm sure you've recorded some episodes that you wish you had back. I have had plenty of those. I wish, because one of the most cringy experiences is watching back and going, you really said that? You really put that out there for everybody to kind of see? And
Right.
it's just kind of the learning experience. But I mean, at the end of the day, we all kind of have a common goal. It's to live our best life. We only got
Right.
one.
Right. You're absolutely right. That's what like a couple years ago they started that YOLO thing, like you only live once. And I couldn't stand it. But like as I got older, I'm like, you only live once. Like live it up and do whatever you can to the best of your ability, right? Um, so all right, so we talk about the podcast or your podcast. How long have you been podcasting?
So this podcast, this iteration of the Scho-Zone, as far as this YouTube channel, started last January,
Okay.
and it's been a wild ride as far as struggling here and there to get things going. But I've been able to gain some traction here and there where I can feel okay about it. But like I said, I started doing podcasting back when you had to tell somebody what a podcast even was, probably sometime around like 2012 or so.
Mm.
And I've just always, I'm sure as you can tell, I'm a talker, so I've always loved being
And
able to
that's
talk.
good.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my favorite things to do is just, kind of like, nothing really stays between these ears right here. A lot of this, for better or worse, just comes out. And I like, the idea of, you know, putting it out there, where I think that I have certain ideas with things, but also I can put out my ideas there and have people tell me why I may be wrong about those things. It's a way of
Mm.
making some discoveries about yourself because, sometimes just having a different set of lenses looking through something. So if somebody can see why I'm saying something, if they approach me the right way about it, then it's like, okay, I can learn from other people. But again, if I'm
All
not
right.
around other people, how do I get the chance to? So that's kind of been the way that I've been doing that and connecting. As I was discussing with you, I used to connect with people all the time on bar stools till closing hours of the bar. But thankfully, that's out of my life now. So now I need to fill that void of interacting with new people and talking about new things through one other form or another. And this is the healthiest way to do it.
Right. And I'm glad you said it because as we said before, like I said, doing this podcast is therapeutic for me. This is therapy. I my work schedule, like I'm a kitchen manager in a restaurant. Like I'm required to work 10-hour shifts, 50 hours a week, but I'm more like 60, 65, and I don't have a social life like that. So when I do this podcast, this is my social life. This is my opportunity to connect with people and just interact and just you know what I'm saying, feel alive, right? So I told my girlfriend like this, I love this, right? This has put a smile on my face. And in the beginning, she was jealous. My girlfriend said, "I'm jealous." I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Because something other than me is putting a smile on your face." I'm like, "Well, listen, if you want the best for me, you got to respect this, right? If you support me to the fullest, and that's it." So
Yeah.
I will say she's been consistently watching. She's been a supporter. She is my rock truly. But this after the podcast, now that's when I got to hear about the jealousy and all these things. But I pay it no mind because I know who she is as a woman, right? Like I know where her heart is, I know where her mindset is, you know. So that's what keeps me at peace. That's what keeps me at bay, you know. And she's a good woman. She do a lot for me. She put up with a lot of things that I don't think a lot of other women will put up with. You know what I'm saying? So that's what makes somebody the MVP. You know what I'm saying? Not to go on a tangent about something else, but you know,
No, no, and
I
honestly, I
just,
mean, so have you ever? I mean, just ask, not to get too personal, but have you ever been a part of? Have you ever been in therapy before?
I have,
I have too. And
you know,
what is therapy basically? You're just talking and somebody's listening and repeating back what you said to them. So the
absolutely.
idea that
And I
if I can just record it into this mic right here and then watch it back afterwards, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, sometimes, I mean, really, you're just talking through your own problems and someone's just kind of steering you in the right direction to make sense of your own
right,
self to yourself. So, yes,
right,
I 100% agree about the therapy aspect of the podcasting. And that's why, when I have people that are interested in the same things as me or have been through similar struggles as me, I'm getting that kind of feedback from them is, because ultimately the whole thing is that there's no judgment involved.
right. And I'm glad you said it because that makes me happy because going into this, I was like, I'm hoping that I can find like-minded people because a lot of times when I vent to people that know me, they do the opposite. They be like, "Oh, you wrong in this and you wrong in that." And I'm not saying I'm perfect. I know I'm not perfect, but like I sometimes I expect somebody to understand where I'm coming from. But when you got so many people saying, "I don't understand that," you should be thinking this way. Then I'm like, dang, now I'm second guessing myself. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, I ain't want to go off on a little tangent. And
No,
not
but
not 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 that that's a problem or anything, you know what I'm saying? But because at the end of the day, it's life.
if you've watched my show, you know that my show is nothing but tangents. I never stay on point, so it's
Oh,
it is what it is, man. And that's what's good because
that
in the moment you have a thoughts, and that's just get it out there. You don't let
right.
those thoughts eat you alive.
Right. So let me ask you this. What keeping with the podcast theme, what made you want to start podcasting? Like what was the driving point to make you start podcasting?
I mean, to an extent of that, I mean, everybody's got their own degree of that. You have to think that you have something to offer. Nobody just does it.
Mm.
Nobody just accidentally ended up with a microphone and a camera in front of them and said, "Hey, I'm just going to start talking." You have to think that you have something interesting to provide. You have to. There's a little bit of narcissism in it, possibly. That hey, like I'm
Ah,
worthy of listening to. For me, the idea really came about was I was a stand-up comedian and stand-up comedy where people always told me that they thought I was funny. I thought I was funny too. I'm not gonna, nobody just, oh, everyone told me I should do this, so I did it. I always liked the idea that I could make people laugh, or I figured I knew ways to make people laugh. But when you're doing stand-up comedy, and especially at the level that I was doing it, which was maybe doing 5-10 minutes at a time, there's nothing less funny than someone that's trying to be funny. Okay, so I always like the idea of being able to organically work humor into conversations and being in control of the conversation. When you're on stage, you only got a couple minutes there. You're not in as much as control as you want to be, or you got to be really good to gain control of it. But the idea that I can be my own boss is also the other part that came about this. I mean, like you said, you've got your job. I work as a sales guy. We all got to answer to somebody, but you don't answer to anybody when it comes to this show. I don't answer to anybody when it comes to my show. Or I don't
right.
want to say I don't, but I try to not answer to anybody.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad you said that about being a boss, right? Because one thing I've said many times on this platform is this. I bought a truck that I want to convert, or I'm converting to a food truck. So I am looking to ultimately leave my job, right, to be my own boss and operate solely on myself running the food truck. You know, if somebody said I shouldn't, somebody told me I shouldn't say this or divulge this live, but I'm gonna say it anyways. Like me and my girlfriend came into some money, right? What's going to help the cause as far as the food truck. So I am this month. I will get the food truck worked on. Right, like I'm about to get the flooring, the ceiling, the walls, the electrical. I'm about to get all that done. Right, and within like 2-3 weeks. But well, they said it's six. They told me it was 6 weeks, something like that. So that's in the works. So I'm excited about that. I love to cook. I'm a chef. I've been in the restaurant industry for like 18 years. I think this is the 19th year. I got to do the math on that, but this it's either the 18th or 19th year. I love to cook at home. I throw away a lot of money. Like, I like to experiment. I like to come up with my own recipes. Sometimes I might sit there. I wake up and I'm be like, all right, well, I like this, or this culture does this culture does this. Now I'm trying to blend cultures together and make one epic cuisine, one epic dish that like nobody's ever had before. And going into this food truck thing, and that's what I want. I'm trying to generate. So when I first started this podcast, it was to to get a following for the food truck thing. You know what I'm saying? And then I
Okay.
started the podcast, and I'm like, it's deeper than the food truck. I love it. It's therapeutic. It makes me feel good. It makes me feel whole. I'm connecting with people. I don't have the time to make friends or converse with people. And then when I started the podcast, I'm like, now I feel whole. I feel complete. I'm able to connect with people. I'm able to communicate. And I don't feel like I'm in a bubble. And that that for me means a lot.
And I mean, it's ultimately again, I love you say that how it organically develops, just kind of like how your recipes will organically develop. And this is that it's nice to have a plan, but guess what? You got to be able to willing to adjust on the fly. There's always circumstances that change with that. For me, you
Right.
know, I would say that I would always be. I see the people that have these kinds of things, and it's one of those things that everyone just sits there, and say that they could do that or they would do this, and it's like, well, put up or shut up, kind of thing. And in
Hmm.
an ideal circumstance where it's the dream would be for me to do this on my own, do this as a regular thing, be able to incorporate the idea of going on a vacation or doing this thing where, again, I'm a huge baseball fan, going to see ballparks and not have that be an expense, but have that be a project and an activity, try to actually, let's face it. I mean, you sound like you like the idea that food, cooking is a big part of your life, and you have that
Right.
plan to be able to do it for yourself. But ultimately, I don't think that you ever at one point in time in your life said, you know what, I want to do this, I want to manage a kitchen, and that's what I want to do with the rest of my life. I'm sure you had some bigger, that you wanted. You didn't, as a younger person, when you had all your dreams, see that going. Just like the way I'm in my current line of work, you do what you do to get by, to make money. But ultimately, I've always just wanted to be myself and find a way. I'm like, I'm not trying to be rich or anything like that. I just want to be comfortable and look
Right.
forward to doing what I'm doing. I don't ever, when I hit record on something, I don't ever go, oh God, I got to do this. But I have days when I go to work where it's like, shit, I got to go there again.
Yep. And that's how I feel when I go to work. But as far as me with the cooking and the food truck, like when I was 16, that's when I had in my mind that like this is what I want to do. But then when I was in school at 16 and we had entrepreneurs or chefs come in, they say, "Well, this is how much this costs." And I was like, "Well, Dad, you got to be rich to be able to do that." And I was like, "Count me out. I'm done." And honestly, that's what it was. But as I got older and working in the field, and so when I was younger, I didn't really fully believe in myself. So as I got older, I started to invest in myself. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you believe in yourself. So then once I had it in my mind, I'm gonna do my own. I'm gonna do a food truck. That's what I want to do. But there is still a fear with that, like because right now I know the people I work with. I know I'm not easy to work with. I know I'm not easy to deal with. I know when I'm gonna get paid. I know how much I'm gonna get paid, and that's where the fear comes from. To quit that to start my own business, that's where the fear comes because now it's me starting from scratch. That's me putting in the work. And if I fail, then I gotta go back to the drawing board. So it's been a fear. But like, I don't look at it as a paycheck. I look at it as more so as a passion. Because I have a passion for cooking. I have a passion for feeding people and hearing the feedback that dang, this was really good. Like this is like you need to cook for me on a regular,
Oh
right?
yeah, no,
I
food,
just
food
come.
is a love language.
Yeah. So that's what I think. But I'm gonna switch gears a little bit so we can get back on topic because we didn't even get to the topic yet. So
It's-
so before we get on topic, right? Let me ask you this: like tell the world, the viewers, right, in the audience, right? Tell everybody about some of your accolades, accomplishments, and highlights in your life.
I mean, let's see. I guess I would, again, being a comedian at one point in time, being able to make people laugh has always been an accomplishment and an accolade. Being considered that guy. Also, being a sports nerd to the sense of that I like kind of where my word can kind of carry more weight than the other guy's word a little bit. Through my
Right.
time doing that, I was supposed to be a college athlete, but part of my outside the field behaviors maybe got in the way with that, and also maybe just not being a big enough guy. Also, the physical limitations on there. But I would say that the fact that I'm still here, that's my biggest accomplishment in survival. Because trust me, there's been plenty of people that if my name was to pop, and I maybe want to pick that word carefully, but for things to have gone wrong for me, I don't think there's many people will be as surprised. And the fact that I'm still head above water in most aspects of life. And thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate it. That's a lovely compliment. I do pride myself on a speaker. That's one thing I would say is that I am people know me as a talker and a speaker and a storyteller kind of thing. And I mean, aside from that, I don't really, put any emphasis. I mean, I've been a sales guy. That's been what my primary career has been for about the past decade or so, where I've received some high accomplishments. I reached the highest level of the sales ladder in my one company. I've had people that have looked at me as bosses. And I think that my biggest accolade is I have people that will ask me for advice or look at me as somebody that can answer their questions sometimes, or, that's kind of, nothing that's formally written, I guess, I mean, I'm just, graduated college, first person from of my family, of my immediate family that did that. So that's an accomplishment, I guess I would say. And my biggest thing I go on is that, I overcame one of the biggest demons out there. I mean, not that, you just took a sip of a beer there, not that that's, we talked about that, but, the fact that I was pretty much a raging functional alcoholic, and the fact that I was able to put that past me for the past almost 3 years now, that's really one of my biggest accolades, which I myself never saw myself doing until I had to, I had no, I mean, and it wasn't that anybody, I think that's one of my biggest prides is that I was the one that made the decision on that one. It wasn't a court telling me I had to do it. It wasn't that I had the intervention of loved ones, although I have a feeling that one was coming down the pike. It was that I was able to decide. And then now I'd say my biggest accolade I have going is that I convinced a lovely woman that she wants to spend the rest of her life and build a life with me. That's really the biggest one going out there. That's the one I'll actually have a trophy when I put that ring on my finger.
I'm glad you said that. So I'm an Eagles fan. We just won a championship. So when you said that, that's what I was like. Yeah, we won. Yeah, we won.
What's funny is that I was meaning to, and I'm sure if you saw my last episode, so I was planning on having some Eagles fans I'm friends with on there because I missed the idea of that a sports team can get me that excited or that passionate about anything, but I'm just numb to it. Part of my thing too is I'm also a pretty, and I guess would say an accomplishment, I'm a profitable sports gambler. Can't quit my job for it, but the fact that I can make a couple bucks with a nasty addiction and recreational activity that I do, that's a big thing for me. But I was just kind of joking around with Eagles fans, and then we even saw it with that guy during the Packers playoff game. Is that what is it about all the Eagles fans that I know that they're all good guys, like like they have wives, kids, jobs, careers, decent people, but then for those 4 hours that the Eagles are playing, they're just like, nope, stay away, turn it away. So I ended up organizing a group chat trying to get a couple of my friends who are, some of them know each other, but they're like, you guys are the same people and you don't even know each other kind of thing. And then I ended up with trying to organize this effort, which getting together a bunch of grown men on the same schedules with all that going on was always tough. I just ended up having this group chat of Eagles fans that were just talking to each other that just takes place on my phone. And, hats off to you. That was one of the most you made for the least exciting Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life. And that was not even a fluke. I feel like if they played that game 10 times, the way that the Eagles did that, they would have won 8 of them.
Yeah, we showed up. I was on edge going into it. Like I felt fully confident, but once I pushed play, because I requested off, I was nervous. And then once we start waxing that ass, I was like, I'm at this point, I'm just watching it just to watch it as a fan, but I wasn't entertained because we was just whooping that ass. So it's like I was like, okay.
But there's something to that, though, is that, I mean, I did, on the other side of it is that I didn't have a dog in the fight. I mean, I don't even really have a favorite football team, but it was nice to see the Chiefs, because I've been saying all year I didn't think the Chiefs were that good. And I'm
Yeah.
not necessarily going down that whole referee rabbit hole kind of thing. Although, as I would say, if somebody did think that the refs were in favor of the Chiefs, it's really tough to make a good argument against them. Too many
Right. Right.
coincidences becomes it's where it's just maybe this is what it is. And damn well when they called that first offensive pass interference on AJ Brown, you're going, oh, we're screwed here.
You're right, and that's interesting because you're more of a sports centered podcaster, right? So that will make a great conversation for me to be in your podcast because it's a lot of questionable things all year, not just in the Super Bowl, all year as far as the Chiefs, right?
Right.
Like it makes you feel like it's rigged, and as a fan of the sport, it makes you turn off. Like I can't watch football if this is what's happening, right? And that's where I was with it. So when we made it, I was nervous because I'm like, so it was 3 referees in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you've seen it. They was under investigation for cheating, and we had already won, so it didn't really bother me. But like, if we had lost and not seen that headline, I would have been like, "This some bullshit." But we won, so I'm like, I don't care, just fire them. So it was 3 referees. They say it was under investigation, and, and we won. So like I said, it went over my head, and I didn't care.
Right. And it's just, it's one of those things that you want to believe. I mean, so I'm primarily a baseball fan. And like I just think back to the idea of when when we look at things differently now, but like Barry Bonds, Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, when they were bringing baseball back, and then the idea of steroids came around, you want to believe that everything you see is legitimate. And that's just the whole thing because, you invest emotions into sports, and then again, sports fans were completely irrational. Like, I mean, it's just like I said, for the 4 hours on there, I'm sure you become a different version of yourself and you handle things much differently.
Right.
You don't want to feel like, you've been made a fool out of kind of deal. Like, that you're just, part of the bread and circus show, so to speak,
I got you. Oh, so let me ask you this. So we know you live like in Albany, New York, or close by, right? So where were you actually born?
I was born right outside a place called Troy, New York, the home of Uncle Sam, believe it or not.
Okay.
And it's right near there. And yeah, that's where I'm from.
So you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I got 2 brothers.
2 brothers. Okay, y'all close?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, as close as we could be. I mean, it's one of those things that you don't necessarily have to always be in touch with them, but it's like we got each other's backs, kind of thing. We don't have any animosity towards each other.
You know what? And I tell people that's not family, but like friendships. I say it's the same thing. You don't have to be in contact or communication every day, right? Like if you're a true friend, like when it counts, they're there, right? Like I tell a lot of people that, right? All right, so that's good. Are you religious?
No, not necessarily. I would say I'm spiritual, but I'm somebody who was raised religious, I guess you would say. I was a confirmed Catholic growing up, but I've always had my questions, and that was kind of more or less to appease my mother and my grandmother. I believe that there's more going on than we can possibly comprehend as human beings, but I don't necessarily like the idea of this organized, mandates that kind of comes with it, or that there's,
Right.
like a governing body for it. I think that there's more to this life than just us. But I don't necessarily prescribe to just like one line of thoughts and stuff. I will say that, I mean, I'm even just blowing my own mind saying this, where I remember I used to hang out with a guy who was deeply religious when I was a full on drunk. This guy used to hang out at the bar sober. And I used to talk about, because I have some problems with things that happen in the church over the years. And he just kind of broke things down. He's like, look, if you read the Bible, if you follow the 10 Commandments, can't you at least agree that it's a good life? And, I never had an answer against that one. So that's kind of how I look at that.
Well, see, for me, it's like for me personally, right? And I don't want to really go down that rabbit hole, but like for me, the Bible is controversial. To me,
It
the
is.
Bible is kind of like I don't know how to put it in words, but like I think it's more so it's what you was taught growing up, right? Like I feel like it's not discrimination, contradiction contradictory, right? Like that's how I feel about the Bible. But like I said, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's
But it's a lot of politics and religion, right? A lot of people that say they're religious, they don't live the holy life, but they preach like they do live the holy life. So at the end of the
absolutely.
day, you can't say somebody's wrong when you living wrong. So
And that's part of the
again,
reason I have my issues with things. I'll agree with you on that one for sure. But yeah, no, I'm not necessarily equipped to have that conversation myself, or I would definitely be ill prepared for it as well. But yeah, no, I mean, but that's in many aspects of life, that people are walking contradictions in many things, and that's kind of the idea, is trying to get things right.
right. So all right, so we better start jumping into the conversation, right? We like half hour in, so let's really just like dive in a little bit, right? Like um, so it is said that the way that Jesus loved the church is the way that a man should love his wife. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, I was just reading a text message from my fiance. Can you repeat that again? I'm sorry about that.
No, it's all good. I said, so speaking about religion, right? It is said that the way that Jesus loved the church is the way that a man should love his wife. What is your
Um,
thoughts on that?
I would say that there's a literal connection. I would say that that would be fairly accurate, because I believe that he died for the church, kind of thing. So it's
Mm.
kind of are you willing to put something else ahead of you? So I could agree with that. If you put something before yourself, like the idea that, if harm ever came across us, I'd be willing to jump in front of the bullets so it wouldn't hit her, kind of ordeal.
So, all right. So, in reality, like that sounds poetic and all, but would you actually do that?
I'd like to think so. I can't, until I'm in that situation, I wouldn't know. But I'd like to think that that's something that I am. It's easy to just worry about yourself. It's not easy to always put something above yourself like that. But I'm saying that even at this right now, I'm willing to make certain sacrifices. And I don't want to say sacrifices, but I'm willing to consider more than just myself. That's kind of
Mm.
the whole thing. You would even kind of have the idea, and not to put you on the spot, but the way that you are as a father and stuff like that. Ultimately, you probably value your kids more than you value you,
Right.
kind of thing.
And
So
I think any parent that really love their kids, I think that that's their mindset, right? Like nobody wants to die or take a bullet, but I would do that for my kids, right? Like it's
it,
crazy.
to an extent, that's like ingrained in you. You have to. With this particular woman, I don't have to. This is a choice I've made, but it's what feels kind of right. Like I don't look at making a decision as how this impacts me. I look at it, for the most part, how it impacts us.
Right. So let me ask you this. Do you think that monogamy is solely a religious thing?
I think that where it stems from can be. And now this is where when you asked me this question in the chat, I had a lot of thinking about
Right,
this one,
right.
because um I think that's, instinctually, if we go down to the animal like instincts of us, we were, as men, the idea of spreading the seed is kind of the main objective of things. I kind of look at. I do think that that was instilled in there, but as somebody who is now really taking this journey seriously about going down that road, um, it doesn't even really feel like as much of a sacrifice. It just feels like the right thing to do necessarily. So when you ask the question, is monogamy natural for a man? I said that when I said my answer to you just before we got on, there's like a layer to it, as I would say, well, what are we defining as a man? Not to go
Mm,
like, that whole conversation, but like there's, just having something hanging between your legs doesn't make you a man, because I would say for a long time in my life, I was a man in physical stature, but I was behaving like a boy. Once you become a
mm,
body and mind man, I think that that starts becoming a little bit more legitimate of an
mm,
idea, that, it's
mm.
you have to invest the energies into it. So like the idea with monogamy is, I've always, and I'll attribute this to a sports analogy. What they would say about in football, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks,
Mm.
and that's
Oh,
where it's
hold on. I like that. Break that down a little bit more, because when you said that, I love that. If you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback.
right. Because you ultimately, a quarterback, you need to have a leader. The quarterback is meant to be the leader of your team. Now it's nice to
Mm,
say there's leadership qualities from everybody, but there's one person that we need to follow their orders with on there. Now, you know what it is. Being in, I'm not sure the length of your relationship, but being in a real, true relationship, it takes work. Like, and I've never ever, even when I was in my younger days, when I was doing the more of the dating thing like that, I still was more or less always invested, and maybe in some cases overly invested in just one person. Where
mm.
if I was, if put it this way, if you're chatting with three girls, it's pretty tough to end up with one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you were back in your
I think it
single days,
depends on the
if you
person.
had a couple girls that you were just doing the talking with too, it's tough to really make things happen because, what if they
I
both
think it
ask you to
depends on
hang
the
out the
person.
same day?
I think it depends on the person. Because listen, my girlfriend probably gonna be mad, but like me, the me back in the day, I could talk to multiple people, and I was able to finagle the bagel. I was able to accommodate. Like I could have two girls I'm talking to hang out the same day, not knowing about each other, and I was able to finesse it to where I tell this one thing, tell this one thing, make plans with this one, and make plans with this one, and then make everything sound kosher. You know what I'm trying to say? Like
Now, what I was,
now,
I mean, hats off. I mean, that's spinning quite a few plates there like that. Maybe, maybe you're just a more desirable man than I am, but I mean, I have to, for me to get things to work, I got to put the full attention down there. But, I would say what I would ask is, how did it make you feel when you were doing that?
okay. Now you sound like my girlfriend because
I know.
me and her had this conversation. No, because me and her had these conversations. My younger days, when I was only worried about a body count or another notch under my belt, it didn't make me feel any kind of way. I was out for myself. I was thinking about myself. I was being selfish. As I got older, you know, even though as a man, I'm like, damn, why am I feeling these ways? I start to have feelings for different people. You, like I've lost a lot of great relationships or friendships because I was attracted to multiple people, and I never wanted to lose nobody, but like I was playing the game, you know what I'm saying? So how did it make me feel? It made me feel shitty. I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel shitty. So at that point, I started thinking about like if I ever have a daughter, I wouldn't want this. The way I'm
Right.
acting as a man, I wouldn't want that. So it made me think that like I'm not gonna do this. And for a long time, whoever I was with, I was faithful, did not cheat, right? And I turned like I had the temptations was there for other women, but I did not cheat. And then when I got cheated on, it made me feel like I can never trust a woman again, right? And I felt like I had abandonment issues as far as women, and add that on top of abandonment issues as a son to a father and a mother. Because growing up, I felt like my mom and my father abandoned me in so many different ways. So you take that, and then you mix that with the relationship aspect. I've been torn my whole life, and I've been trying to find that balance. So I met my girlfriend, and I give her all the credit in the world. I wouldn't be the man I am today without her. She has changed my life. Without her, I'll be in the streets. I probably would have been in jail. A lot of things would have happened if I didn't meet her. So I'm not a religious guy, but I believe in higher power, and I feel like God put her in my life for a reason. Me and her went through so much in life. It's a lot of things that I didn't feel comfortable talking to her about, or I had conversations with her about certain things that I was like, I know she's gonna be mad about it, but at least I know she can talk about it. And she has. It's been a lot of uncomfortable situations she's been in that I can still rely on her. So I tell her all the time, she's the MVP. She's the most valuable person or player, however you want to cut it, in my life. And who want to lose something like that, you know? So even now, she's feeling like she's losing me or whatever because I'm going through whatever I'm going through. And I tell her, oh God, she commented. um, you know, it's a lot of things that like she feel torn about, and she's still by my side. And I'm like, I can't lose somebody like that. Cause once you have that kind of connection, once you have that love, it's like it's nothing greater in life than that. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's tough. It's tough. And when I told her I was having this conversation, this topic today, she was on the fence whether she's gonna watch it. But like clearly, as you can see it, she's watching it. You know.
Well, and like, I mean, so like that was why I kind of phrased things that, I had, and we said I see your comment on there. That's why I phrased things the way I did is that, for a man, it's not that hard. For when you did the whole thing, dude, trust me, I was there. I was a boy, again, I mean, even though I was at a man's age, I was still behaving like a boy because we almost care more to appease our friends and the people we're around with, or like that, because was it you in your own mind that had the idea of I need to get the body count up, or I need to do this, or was it the idea that you got to flex a little bit on, yo, dude, check out the baddie I was with last night, kind of thing, like was there that? I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, but it's kind of almost like you look at it as like maybe a little bit of an accomplishment and stuff, but then ultimately the idea that and I always hope with this, but the idea that I may have ever hurt somebody who never did anything wrong to me, that's what kind of, makes me, kind of feel, bad about things. And trust me, as somebody who used to drink a ton, I have all kinds of anxieties that come from, did I really fucking say that to something? Can I swear on this? Sorry, my bad. I'm like, did I really actually?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, did I really say that? Or that person didn't, never cheated or anything like that. But I may have been seem to be interested in somebody, but I'm just seeming that way because, I have, motives, kind of thing, it's almost the idea that I have. What's up?
See how you said motives? Yeah. So that's apropos as well. See how you said like you never cheated. I was going to ask you if you ever cheated, but when you already said you haven't, but you said, have you thought about it for motives? See what I'm saying? So that's why it's apropos, because I said the topic is monogamy natural for a man? Everything ties together. So let me ask you this real quick, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Do you believe in monogamy? And I know
I
you
do
engaged.
now. I mean, I always have, but I mean, now I definitely do, because I think that that's a dual agreement on things. One, just for health factors, but two, just for the emotional factor of stuff. Of that, I look at that, and I'll be honest with this one, and my fiance is probably watching this too. But it used to be if I saw an attractive girl, I was thinking about a little deeper than just what's on the outside kind of thing. I was thinking a little bit more, what would that be like? Now I see an attractive girl and I say, hey, that's just an attractive girl.
I commend you for that, bro. Because as a man, I ain't gonna lie. I've for a couple years, I've been like, I share the same notion. But then this is the thing. So temptation is real, right? So I was telling my girlfriend today earlier before she went to work. I said, listen, babe, I was like, I'm gonna have this podcast. I'm gonna be 100% honest. I'm gonna be transparent. This is the thing. When people sit there and they in a relationship and they say, I don't find nobody else attractive, they're a liar. They lying to themselves, they lying to you. Because what I told my girlfriend is this. Let's say me and you wasn't together, right? And you find this guy attractive, you find that guy attractive, you find that guy attractive, and you so happen to be in a relationship or get into a relationship with one of the guys, one of the 4 or 5 guys that you found attractive. Are you gonna sit there and say this guy's not attractive no more? She said no. I'm like, exactly. So when people sit there and say because I'm in a relationship and nobody else is attractive, they're a liar to themselves and to you. And a person that's a liar to you and to themselves, you can't trust them, because temptation is a real thing. Attraction is attraction. That's like if you like pizza from this pizza place, pizza from that pizza place, you love it. You can't sit there and say, "Oh, well, I'm loyal to this place. I'm not gonna go there no more." But occasionally you go to the other place. It makes no fucking sense. And I told my girlfriend that. I'm like, it's the lay of the land. It's the way of the world. Like you can't remove that from the human instinct, right? Like attraction and temptation go hand in hand, right? Like if you see a movie, you like a movie, you like multiple movies, you're attracted to like multiple different things. You understand what I'm saying? Not saying you smile before, because I feel like you understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
so I told her, like, listen, is it shitty being in a relationship with somebody and that's attracted to somebody else? Yeah, it's a shitty motherfucking thing. But let's not negate the fact that it's reality. Because when we talk about relationships, right? In the beginning, it's brand new. You love it. Everything is fireworks. But the longer you do one thing, guess what? And this gonna sound bad, and I hope she don't take offense to this. If life was easy, we'd be doing something else. And I say that to say this. The longer you're in a relationship, unless you're doing multiple different things to keep that flame going, if you content and you just content, you do the same thing every day, it becomes old, it becomes boring. So if something else comes and they give you that same fling or that same feeling as your significant other, that's the brand new thing, and it makes you feel like, oh shit. Now it makes it harder. Now, and let's say you get attached to somebody It could be a friend or somebody you in the relationship wise. Like once you get attached, that makes it hard because now you're in a relationship. You're like, damn, what I have over here is great. What I have over here is great. I don't want to lose either one. So now what do you do? Now, if it becomes a problem in your relationship, what do you do? Seriously. Because feelings are feelings. What do you do?
So, I mean, let's see. The whole thing that goes on is that I would say that, acting on some of those, I mean, I can kind of attribute, the idea of, like, again, going back to my alcoholism or like that, where, acting on one of those, it's a weak moment. And then it's ultimately, let's be real here that us men, we have that idea of the post nut clarity. And I'm going to think back to a story right now that, I was with a girl once upon a time. She was starting to see that maybe things were not going to be the way that she wanted them to be and whatnot, and made the threat of breaking up with me. Now I was shit faced drunk at a bar or whatever like that. And the idea that I wasn't going to be, getting any that night kind of, wore on me at that moment. And in that moment, I talked my way through things. And this is, again, my younger, less, more, flattering days. And then when I actually went and we did meet up that day and we connected, once I had that post nut clarity of going, what the fuck did I just do? Like, kind of thing, it's kind of that moment, like, just like how, like, if I was to have a drink right now, I would feel so bad about it that I would probably go on a worse downward spiral about things. I'm not sure if that even really necessarily made sense. That was just kind of what came to my head there, but it
No, I
doesn't
do.
even cross my mind, like, where, like, honestly, like, I don't even have, to getting really personal right now, I don't even take care of myself anymore. I feel like that's, wasting. I don't have as much desire because I'm like, what am I going to be thinking about when I know how good the real thing is? And that's kind of the thing of that, a guy had once told me once upon a time, a married guy that I, hung out with back in the day. He was like, you'll know once you're there, talking about there, that spot, that's the one that's the one for you. And I can
Yeah.
kind of look at that as, not to get graphic or anything, but I'm like, yeah, no, this is the one for me. This is, everybody likes a good steak, and if you got delicious
Mhm.
steak, why would you ever want to settle for hamburger? Sure,
Right.
sure,
That's what I'm
sure, you're going to get fed, but I know that I got filet mignon whenever I want it, like, or that,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Temptation is a real thing, and that we're gonna touch bases on the monogamy thing a little bit more, but like, let me ask you this. So I feel like if we remove God, right? I feel like a man will always be in the streets, right? Because, like I said before, temptation is real. It's a real thing. So if you remove God, meaning religion, if you remove that aspect, I feel like a man will always want to play. That's how I feel. What are your
I
thoughts on
mean,
that?
but again, now are we talking about man or boy though? That's kind of where I go back to that, idea
Ooh,
of, is that's just, that's a child. I mean, as kids, we want, and then as an adult, we understand, hey, there's, I can only have so much,
mm,
it's kind of where we go at. And again, how you're going to feel afterwards, where it's like, you don't even want to necessarily take that chance. And, oh, geez, you said something that got me off of, I had a point and then said something that even meant that. But yeah, no, the temptation, just not giving. This is what I meant to say. I used to dignify, or the way I would look at certain behaviors that I would do as somebody who there was more than alcohol going on. I'll just say at some points in times. Anytime you're doing something that you can't tell anybody about, that's just whether it's between you, God, or anything else. But you telling somebody in general, if I was to tell you, yeah, dude, I step out all the time right there, you're probably going to judge me a little bit for that, I would say, or not, maybe not judge me, but it's a disappointing thing. If I was to have to risk that, if I told anybody what I did, that they would have any negative feeling towards that, that's not God. That's just me just realizing, oh, maybe there is something wrong with that. No one's ever told anybody that they volunteered for a charity and they've been like, wow, why would you do something like that? Or wow, that was stupid, like, and if that person
right,
does, think that way, then maybe that's not a person you need in your life. Like, you wouldn't, like, I was talking about this with my fiance before when I told her about the topic we were discussing. I remember one time there was a coworker of mine that I knew was not exactly my cup of tea, or I didn't, always had that bad guy vibe from him a little bit. And this
right.
other guy that I was friends with, that was also friends with him, one time asked me, and this guy was a married guy, and he asked me, hey, if one of your friends was ever stepping out, how would you handle that? And I initially thought about that. I'm like, I don't think any of my friends have, but you know what? They'd be pretty freaking smart to never let anybody know about it.
Right. So I just want to touch on these comments real quick. So Rhonda, I connected with her. She do a podcast too, Rhonda on the Rocks. You can follow her on Rhonda on the Rocks podcast. She said,
No,
even with God, she said, temptation is still present, right? So to that, you say what?
I mean, and this is now with the religious thing is that what does the whole story of the Bible start off with? Somebody giving it a temptation. You can have everything perfect. You can do anything you want to, just don't eat that apple. And then what
I'm
happens?
glad.
Ate the
Yeah,
apple.
I'm okay. She also said, we as humans have a choice, have to choose monogamy. It is not natural, right? So I was going to ask this later on, but like, I'm going to ask you, do you think monogamy for a man is natural?
Again, for me, it appears to be that way. I do. I mean, I'd have to say that no, maybe. I mean, I've learned into that one. I mean, again, when we're younger, again, I go back to the whole boy thing. I mean, a strong gust of wind can get you excited. So, I mean, let's face it, we've all found ways to simulate doing the deed, kind of things that, to kind of spice it up a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I would probably say it's a learned behavior. But I also look at it as that again, being a more evolved and developed person, it just seems to be much easier. I mean, like the idea that I don't even know now, and trust me, this is actually something, my girl comes from a different culture. She was mentioning that her bridesmaids may, kind of, do a little temptation to me to see how I actually physically react to it or whatever, like, and
Mm,
it's gonna,
mm.
you know, for humans, we make choices. I'm tempted to do something daily. A number of things run through my mind. I choose to have self-control. See, I normally would agree with Rhonda on that one. I don't even have those thoughts the way that I used to, like I don't like, just being real here is that I can't think of the last time I even, a man can access just about anything he wants on this smartphone right here, as far as, you can see and experience anything.
You're right. You're
I
right.
don't
But
feel the
she
need to
was
even
talking
do
about
that.
when she's talking about temptation. Like I think, look, listen. When I say temptation is real, that's meant for men and women. Like temptation is hard. Like that's why Adam followed Eve, and Eve did what she did out of temptation, right? Like she was curious. Curiosity leads to temptation. You know what I'm trying to say? So like
Yeah.
so temptation is a powerful thing. It's next to money in America, right? Like without like people say money ain't everything, but money is everything because we lust for that. We crave money. We crave money for power, right? So like the same thing with temptation. Temptation is a powerful thing. That's why Satan, the devil, Lucifer, however you want to call it, like that's why the world's so corrupt, like because it's a powerful thing. He is a powerful thing if you believe in religion.
Yeah, and I mean, we mentioned this earlier because even when you were saying, in your younger days when you used to do certain things, is that pleasure is temporary, pain is forever kind of thing. Like the idea that again, you don't feel good about that, and it's gonna it'll guilt will eat you alive. And I mean, I would say that there's people that if they don't feel anything, I don't know whether to be jealous or feel bad for them. Like if they can just go about doing things like everything is okay. Like I think that with somebody that would be, if they don't feel bad about something that they did, they probably have something deeper on there where I would almost say maybe they're subhuman.
I got you.
It's one thing.
So,
It's one
so,
thing to fall victim to temptation. It's another thing to feel good about it.
so, as a man of God, right? Like, not saying I'm a man of God. Like a lot of religious people, they say when you're religious, you're a man of God, right? So, as a man of God, if I say that I have to go and find a wife because that's what men of God is supposed to do, right? Then you only going to find what you're already looking for, or not looking for, but you're only going to find what you truly are as yourself. If you talking spiritually, right? Like if you say I'm a man of God, and a man of God is supposed to find a wife, you only gonna find who you supposed or who you already are, right? If I'm not living as a husband, how can I find a wife, or how can I expect to find a wife to be a wife? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I mean, and honestly, I'll be honest. Part of my thing with my summer, I kind of had resorted to the fact that this was never going to happen to me. If you would have told me at this day 1 year ago that you would ever even be considering getting married, I would have said you're out of your minds. That's not going to be the
Right.
circumstances under how me and my fiance got together almost show me that there was like a purpose in plan and play. I mean, for starters, she's not even from America. So the idea that she even entered my life coming from an entire world, and I joked around with her that the reason I used to be the way I was because how was I ever supposed to find what I was looking for when you weren't even available to me, kind of thing. And just even the sheer nature of how we met was by freak, occurrence, I would even say. Right. As far as it was really just by chance and by accidents.
Right. No, I got you. So basically what I was saying is, all right, so let me slow it down a little bit. Like,
no.
If I'm not living as a husband, like truly, right? How can I find or expect a woman in my life to be a wife, right? Like, how can I expect her to live up to the expectations of what a wife's supposed to be if I'm not living up to the expectations of a husband? That's the question I was asking.
You can't. I mean, it's kind of you get what you give in this, in this relationship of things. You got if you're not putting everything into it, then why should she?
And that's what I was saying. So when we go into relationships, who we are is what we're looking for, essentially. Because if you're a holy person, if you look at yourself as being holy and righteous, and you say, I'm a man of God, and you go out and seek a woman, you're only gonna seek a woman that's worthy of being a wife, right? But if you yourself are on the fence, or you don't believe in monogamy, or you have these temptations, or you let these temptations run your life or consume you, then guess what? Whoever you're looking for, you might, in your mind, mentally, you might say, I want a wife. But if you're not there mentally, then whoever you find is not going to be wife worthy. They're not going to act as a wife because you're looking into the wrong places. That's what I'm trying to get at.
So remember I mentioned earlier when we were talking about the podcast, I'm not sure if this was before we discussed or when we were actually on, but the people that always want to prepare, that they want everything to be perfect. And if you're looking for something to be perfect, you're missing out on a lot that's happening in the meantime or whatever. And maybe something is not perfect. I mean, off the get-go, but you can make it perfect kind of deal. And, as I kind of look at too, we're around the same age right now, is that I was getting bored of life. I mean, that's when I started doing the trip to see all these different baseball stadiums. I'm like, am I really going to spend the rest of my life hanging out with the same friends, telling the same stories, going to the same restaurant, doing all the same things over and over again? It's just done. So the idea being is that, being 39, 40 years old, I mean, let's face it, before the advent of medical science, we weren't even meant to live this long. Right. But the idea of that, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. But now when I'm doing things with my fiance, we have enough in common, but we have enough different that now I get to experience new things through her. I get to experience new things from her. So like, for example, the Super Bowl, I made the post. You may have seen that, she was the MVP of the Super Bowl for me because in an otherwise blowout game, that was the first Super Bowl she ever watched. So I got to watch somebody and that, her running commentary of things where, I find myself watching things with her that I would never in a million years watch, but I get entertainment through watching her be entertained, like I do things, kind of like the way that, as a father right now, the things you do with your kids, you probably wouldn't do as a guy your age, but you get a joy out of doing it, seeing it through their eyes and sharing that experience with them. And that's kind of how I look at it. Is that I'm going to keep being alive and keep making life interesting. That's something I have to do.
And that's what, all right. So I'm glad you said that because not to put too much out there, but like, it's like sometimes when we talk about attraction, you can be attracted to multiple people. It's like, say if you're attracted to multiple people or two people, one do something that the other one don't, right? And you might, especially if something's new. So if somebody else come in your life and they new, you have a fling or you're attracted to them or you hang out with them, they're a new person. The person you've been in a relationship with for years, essentially they're the old thing. You still love them, you still want to be with them, but it's like, where's 4th of July? The 4th of July is with the new person. So that's where sometimes it makes it hard. So now when we talk about monogamy, it's like, how? If it's 4th of July here, and the person you've been with for 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, however long it's been, if it's just like, okay, I'm just living, that makes it difficult. And then you don't want to hurt the person you're living with for all this time, but you have feelings for this other person because every time y'all together, it's 4th of July. It's like, what do you do in that situation?
I mean, so
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, this is, maybe if I heard this correctly, but it's kind of, again, I attribute things back to the drinking thing or like that. Not putting yourselves in positions to ever, like, what if I was to hang out at a bar right now, there's a higher chance I'll take a drink than if I was to hang out in my apartment right now. But if I
Right.
commit myself to not doing these things, then I don't have to worry about that. So for the most part right now, I mean, I don't really put myself in it, or even in the past, I never put myself in the positions on there, but attraction can only go so far. That's just a short temporary fix, I would say, where, have you ever found yourself talking to an attractive female going, God, I wish that she would shut up. I can't stand a word that she's saying.
I have,
Um,
honestly.
and I kind of look at too is that, at the end of the
Hold
day,
hold
this may sound,
hold on before you continue. Have you so to put a spin on that, have you ever found yourself saying the same thing with somebody you've been with for a long period of time?
I'm sorry, saying what exactly, as far as
Yeah,
what I,
I like, oh, I can't wait for her to shut up. Like she getting on my
no,
nerves.
no, 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 no. I mean, unless I'm getting yelled at and being put, unless I'm being told I'm wrong when I know I'm wrong, I don't like hearing that. But I mean, ultimately, it's coming from
All
a
right.
place of love.
All right. I guess that's where we differ. Because listen, in a serious relationship, it's been times where I'm like, God damn it! I never in my relationship, my current relationship, I've never been a clingy guy. I never liked clingy. I never liked over emotion. None of that shit. I like attention. I love attention. I always crave attention. But when it's like, oh, you didn't kiss me on my forehead before you left. I'm like, what? I never did that my whole time knowing you. Like, why are you clinging to that? Why are you wanting that? Why is that your expectations? To me, that's a turnoff. But like, so my girlfriend, it's like that's what I need. I've never been about fairy tale relationships. You know what I'm trying to say? So like,
Oh yeah, no, I get.
that's why I asked you that question. It gets to a point in time when she want to talk about that kind of stuff. I'm like, yo, stop talking to me, please. I love her to death. I want to be with her, but like when she do that, I'm like, yo, stay away from me. Stop, stop. And then, of course, women are built more on emotion. She can't handle that. And for me, it's like I've never been that person. Now you want me to be that person after it's almost 8 years. Now you want me to be that person. It's like, yo, what are you doing? Like, it's like, give me some time. Get away from me. And I don't want to be an asshole or come off like that. But it's like, what are you doing? What are we doing right now? Let's just live life as we've been doing because everything's been fine and everything will be fine. Don't come up with these newfound ideas or these notions that I'm supposed to be this guy. Like, no, I never presented myself as that person. You know what I'm trying to say?
No, yeah. Well, I mean, that's where, I mean, it always comes down to is that communication is the backbone of every good relationship. Where, I mean, if there is something you don't want to hear, you need to be able to communicate in a way to make that make sense, I guess I would say. The way that I kind of looked at some of these things, as I would say, is, and this is something I used to say definitely in my single days more so, is that, not to be graphic, but any girl can get a guy off. But there's more, it's what more you bring to the table than just that, like, cool, making me, shoot my rah-rah juice. That can, and anybody can make that happen realistically. But can you make me laugh?
Realistically,
Can you
yes,
make me laugh? Like, can you make me laugh? Like,
yes,
literally, just
yes.
maybe, the ability to make me laugh is already going to be. You've already trumped 99% of the population. Can you make me think? Can you make? Are you bringing more to me than just that?
Right. And that's what I was saying about certain situations. Like, so say if you have feelings for two different people, if one person is so content that they don't even attempt to do that or they don't know how to do it, but this new person, they're filling those voids that you're missing in your life, and they're doing all these things that you want and you expected and everything you dreamed of. Now, let's say you have feelings with two people. How do you navigate?
So I'll be this. This actually happened once with me, where I did have a relationship I had to painfully end a little bit. And I mean, again, the way that things kind of fell about, it was one of those things that, again, we were we were too similar. So it was easy to hang out as far as that was concerned, is that, it was like hanging out with myself, which at the time I probably was a bit narcissistic, where I liked that idea of it. But it wasn't until I was doing something else I went on like a trip with my friends and I wasn't picturing her there with me. where it was like, I remember actually like not wanting to talk during that. And that was kind of my sign to me. And like, I had to have the painful conversation with her of just saying like, I gotta rethink this because, when I wasn't with you, I was kind of saying I didn't see you here with me or whatever. Now I have a hard time seeing myself doing things without her kind of deal. And I also have a hard time not telling her what I'm doing.
Mm. So ultimately, when you was in that situation, the decision you made was to leave that person.
It was kind of whether or not I directly said it or whether I was knowing that what the results of my words were going to be. I had to say, I didn't, when I was here, I wasn't saying how great it would be to be here with you, kind of thing. And
Mm.
that's kind of a difference
So
that now I feel differently about that now. I feel like that I want her to be a part of some of these big things.
so this is crazy because I was about to move forward, but now this is very interesting. So let's say a person is torn between two people, and they look at it like if you put it on the scales of balance, right? If if you sit there and say, well, this person do things that make me not want to leave them, but this person also do things that not want to leave them. But then when you put it on the scales of justice and you say, what outweighs the other? And you say, well, this person does the most for me. I'll be more beneficial while staying with this person. But this is the thing. If I leave this person, I'm gonna resent the other one. Or if I leave that person, I'm gonna resent that person. What
Back
would
to
you
my
say?
original statements. When you got two quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks.
Mm. So in a situation like that, what is your solution? To leave both? Walk away from both?
I would say that if you have a decision to be made, then it's already been made. If you don't know the answer, then that means you know the answer and it's neither.
Oh, oh,
Because again,
I love that.
you're just attracted to him. You're just, I mean, you're in a sense, you're almost falling victim too much to your temptation. You're almost intoxicated by it and stuff like that. Again, for your sake, where you like the attention and stuff like that, you're getting the attention you need. But then once you lose the attention of one of them, is the other person going to give you everything you need? You know,
Yes. Okay. Hey, that's interesting. All right, I'm gonna push forward now. But I love what you just said, and that's great for future episodes because I got a lot of things in the works. I got a lot of things planned. Like I want to start having debates. I just want to be the host where I'm just a mediator and let two people debate about a conversation. That's another thing I plan on doing. I think that'd be great for the podcast. I think that'd be great for everybody. But anyways, moving forward. So with everything we were saying, right? I think that what happens is that we as people, right, we buy into the ideas that um um it's all about titles, right? Hold on, let me put this comment up there right quick. Threw me off a little bit. What you say? You have to think about situations too. I mean, see, it's my girlfriend. You got to elaborate a little bit more so we can really talk about it, right? So I'm gonna go back to what I was saying. Hopefully, well, I ain't gonna say hopefully because I know she's gonna comment. Um, so like I was saying, we buy into these ideas, right? But like at the end of the day, it's all about a title. Like people that say they're a man of God, right? What they're looking for is accessories. Their wives become accessories, right? They be like, "Oh, I'm a man of God, and having a wife is what I'm supposed to do," right? And when people that say they're a man of God or a woman of God, they act and try to live out the image of what people say they're supposed to be, right? So they buy into the concept, right? And at the end of the day, they're not actually living true to themselves, right? What do you think about what I just said?
they're not living true to themselves. I mean, you can be, and that's always something I remember somebody saying not to be blinded by religion. There's the
Right,
idea, I think, that are you doing what you think you should be doing, or are you doing what you actually want to be doing?
right.
Can't make a decision.
But you hold on. My bad. Finish what you were saying. We
No, no,
can
I was
touch
reading
on
her
what you're
comment
saying in a
too, 'cause I
minute.
saw you were reading it too. So I said you can't make a decision without
Y-
really
y-
thinking about everything involved and what will be lost from your decisions. Um,
But that's another conversation. That's why I said finish what you were saying. We could touch on her comment, but like because that's a dip. That's
It's just
I
this. I
knew
mean,
she was
the
gonna be in the
idea is that I
comments.
mean, like right now, like I'm not doing things because I think it's what I should be doing. I'm doing things because it's what I want to be doing. Like
Mm,
right now, just this whole thing. Like I'm planning a wedding out right now. We haven't even moved in together. We're gonna be moving in after that, and I'm just kind of like, can we just get to
mm.
the part where we're living together and husband and wife? Like there's that whole thing right there where it's like it's not because it's what I think I should be doing. It's because I legitimately want to be doing.
Right. I got you. Now we can jump to her comment. She said, "You can't make decisions without thinking about everything involved." She said, "And what will be lost from those decisions?" I mean, see, when your feelings is involved, you can't really say that, right? Like, so I'm not sure
Emotions
if
do
she's,
make for irrational thoughts, 100%.
but like, if you have feelings for two people, that don't mean. All right, let me ask you this. So let's say you had feelings for two people, but you was say, all right, let's say you was in a relationship with somebody for 5 years, and then you met somebody you only knew them for a year, but you developed feelings for both, but you was in love with the person you was with for 5 years. Because you got feelings for somebody else, does that mean that you're not in love with them no more because you got feelings for somebody else? I want your opinion before I jump on it.
No, I would say, I mean, what I would go on is that if you really truly love somebody, you don't put yourself in a situation where that would come up, I guess I would say.
Mm.
It's kind of that, you don't really make yourself available and outward towards somebody. If I'm attracting somebody that I am shooing away, that I'm showing no interest into, that's probably more of an indictment on that person than it is on me.
But it's called temptation. Temptation is out there. Temptation was there for Adam and Eve.
Yeah,
You
I
know what I'm
mean,
saying?
but
So not to get biblical, but like, so people that talk about their religion or religious, temptation has always been around in the Bible. Temptation is there. Like even in everyday life, you might say, "Oh, I need to cut back on sugar." Somebody come around with a fucking cheesecake or a cupcake, and you be like, and you consume that cupcake. Temptation is real. So it's like you can't avoid temptation. People like what they like, and that's it. I think at the end of the day, it comes back down to willpower, right? It makes like it comes down to strength as an individual, right? Like, and I hate to say that because if I put myself in that situation, if I was to creep out, if I was to do whatever, does that make me weak? To me, I would tell you, no, I'm not weak. I just gave in the sensation. But by definition, that means you will be a weak person. You know what I'm saying? So it's hard. Life is hard. If life was easy, we all would be doing something else. That's all I'm saying.
no, I just says right now, I gotta just. So, um, I'm sorry. I just got a text message that kind of rattled me for a second there because the way the conversation's going. But no. So I mean, there's the one answer to the prayer: "Lead me not into temptation, but deliver me from evil." And I mean, I look at
Mm,
that. The idea of giving into temptation is evil.
mm,
It's
interesting.
it is. I mean, not. I mean, that is getting into the idea of there is still the religious aspect to it, but again, it's something that it's something that you should not be doing.
All right. So let me ask you this: what is marriage to you?
Marriage to me is build.
I don't want to say this, but I'm going to say this. You're newly engaged, so like, I don't want you to say something that's going to ruffle feathers. But like, at the same time, me selfishly want you to be honest. Like, what, what is marriage to you?
Marriage to me is putting, putting yourself aside and putting yourself towards the greater cause of us together, building a life together, building a home, building a family, kind of, the idea of going through this journey with somebody, having your number one, your ride or die.
Mm. So what's
Somebody
the
that you
difference? Go ahead.
sorry. No, no, no. I'm just
No,
saying
go
that,
ahead.
putting somebody where it's, making yourself not the most important person, making the two of you the most important cause.
So what's the difference between a long lasting relationship versus marriage? Because I had a podcast about this before. So
I mean, at what point in time is that, after a certain period of time, what is it that you're doing? I mean, if you're not sure, like, I mean, especially given the age that I'm at, if I'm not willing to go further than this, then why would I keep doing it? Is it just out of a comfort and need kind of thing? Or is it because I actually want to be doing this? And that's probably why, again, I used to go through shorter term relationships, because I would realize is that, hey, this is just nothing but a good time. There's nothing
Mm,
that the good times are going to stop.
So I think that what happens is in church, right? Like people buy into this like I'm a man of God or I'm a woman of God, right? And they come together in a way that they're like they're not coming together properly, right? They coming together as in like this is what I'm supposed to do, right? They're not so they're not coming together as two people. They're coming together as two people with titles, right? And that's why I'll ask you about marriage. What do you think about marriage? Like, because for me, marriage is just a title. For me, marriage is more so a business than it is a relationship.
It's evolved into that, I would say. And again, it's probably been when it's strayed from religion, it's kind of turned out to be that way. But while not getting religious, I mean, me and my fiance, we're not people that consider ourselves religious, but we do believe in the idea of being together, and it becomes symbolic. Yes, I guess when you actually put that down on paper, but it's symbolic of that we're actually doing this together. Like, that ring has meaning to it, and that's also meant to put out there to, hey, stay away, kind of deal. Like, this is why I am. The same comment just came up here.
Um, so I mean, I feel like when you come together with the notion that like this is what we're supposed to do, this is what a marriage is supposed to be, right? I feel like you never get to the level of truth in the church, right? Because instead of coming together um as a whole, you come together as a title, right? You don't look at it like this is what works for me. You look at it like this is what was taught to me. This is what the church tells me I'm supposed to do, right? So I think that like that's where a lot of people get lost. Like they grow up in the church and people say this is how you're supposed to act, this is how you're supposed to be. And if you don't do this, it's not godly. That means you're a sinner. And I think a lot of people are afraid to be labeled as a sinner, right? But like you just think about it. If you're married to somebody, you guys supposed to be whole. You're not supposed to have in the back of your mind, oh, I'm supposed to do these things for you. I'm supposed to hold the door open for you. Like people talk about chivalry. Like, don't get me wrong. I do the chivalry thing, but not every day. I'm not going, bro. I, I'm, I go to a restaurant. I'm not opening the door for my girlfriend. Like, I'm not doing that shit. Like, now, granted, I'm talking about the car door. Now we get to a restaurant. If she walk in slow enough where I can open the door. Yes, I open it. If she walking fast as hell, you think I'm gonna speed up to open the door? I'm not fucking doing that. I'm sorry. And and these are trained and taught behaviors. And the church will tell you that's how a man's supposed to be. No, right? Like a man's supposed to be. Well, and we can't say a man's supposed to be a provider. A man's supposed to be a protector. A man's supposed to do X, Y, and Z. And then you put all these extra expectations. Okay, so if that's what a man's supposed to do, what is a woman supposed to do? Nothing. How's that fair? Where's the balance? It's a reason why God created men and God created a woman, right? Because one don't have what the other one has. A man or a man is born stronger with thicker bones, and it's just you know what I'm saying. So it's created like that. So it could be a balance some ways. Women are built off emotions, men are not. We're born to be strong, dominant. That's where the balance is. So when you try to say a man's supposed to succumb to a woman and say, "Oh, I'm a digress. I'm gonna lower myself to do X, Y, and Z," that's not being a man at that point, right? So like, so we talk about monogamy. Like I don't know. I just don't feel like monogamy is a natural thing. And I'm not saying don't be monogamous. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't think it's a natural thing for me. Sticking with biblical times in the Bible, all throughout the Bible says that a lot of kings had concubines and they had a lot of whores. They had parties. They was married and they still had whores. Why was that? Right? So if you talk about biblical, you can't say that's sinful when all throughout the Bible they say every king, every prominent person in the Bible had concubines and whores. How does that make sense? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's and then ultimately that's part of the reason why I don't necessarily prescribe to ordinary religion. I guess I would say that's why I'm not really a believer of any form. But I guess we can go back to even just break it down to the idea of respect. The golden rule: do unto others as you want done to you. So the idea that thinking of my fiance with another man and being as happy as she is with me would freaking just that would just rip me apart like that. Ironically, I was just watching before this. I was watching the Netflix on O.J. Simpson and the one they just put out there, and look at what that led him into doing. When some guy was just dropping off her watch to her, and he perceived it that she was with her, and then we all know what he may or may not have done. If not going to relitigate that case or anything, but just you want done to you what you want done to others, and that's just kind of that. And in the wedding, I mean, it's the idea of a marriage, it's in the vows that you choose, kind of deal, like the how you vow it to each other. Like some people use if you go to a church marriage, I believe they have the same vows or whatever. But when me and my wife get married, it's going to be the vows we make to each other. It's going to be that, hey, these are the conditions in which we make it official to each other. Not like as far as this is what I'm going to do for you, this is what how I'm going to envision our lives together.
Right. I got you. You got a message?
Yeah, no, I got you.
All right. Um. So, all right. So, a little bit what I was saying before, right? Instead of coming by title, right? It's like if I'm coming by like this is what works for me, right? I'm not trying to fit what works for me into what works for the culture or what works for religious purpose or what was taught to me, right? Like I think that's what people need to understand. Like so in a relationship, so me, when I ask you what's the difference between a relationship and a marriage, it's like what once you get married, what is really the difference between when you was just in a relationship versus when you get married, right? Like it's this thing for me. Then when I say marriage is just a business, is because once you get married, now let's talk about business. Now you're talking about who gets what, right? Now you're talking about pre-nuptials versus no pre-nuptials. You're talking about if if you get divorced, who gets what? That's a business. That's no longer a relationship.
If you're going into that one, but then that's why I would say that some of those are meant to fail. I would say that when you're doing the marriage, the difference between a marriage and a relationship is that actual commitment. It's a relationship you can just get up and leave anytime.
See, a lot of people say that, but okay. When you're in a marriage, why you think there's so many divorces? Because people up and leave when they want to. So again, I'm gonna ask you, what is the difference between a relationship and a marriage?
Because
When
people that
whenever
aren't
you
willing to
marry,
stand by
you get divorced.
people that aren't willing to stand by the vows that they made to each other.
I get it, but if you get divorced, you're leaving each other, right? So in a relationship, you say you can up and go. Well, when you marry, you up and go anyway. So what's the difference? It's not a difference. The only thing is paperwork, right? So once you sign your name on a dotted line, guess what? That's a business. That's a contract. Once you enter into a contract, that's a business. That's no longer a relationship. You understand what I'm saying or no?
I get what you're saying on that one. I just I just don't want to necessarily.
And I get it.
I
You
know
don't
what
want.
you're saying. I know what you're saying on that one. It's just that I don't want it to. I don't want to think of it that way, I guess is what I'm looking at. Like I look at it as that, yes, there is paperwork on there, but word is bond is I guess what I look at is that my words mean more than what my signature, I guess I would say.
I
If
got you.
you you're giving somebody your word. And that's kind of how I look at it. Whereas a relationship, there's, not necessarily as much word given. Or it's just, you're just kind of you're just going through the motions, I guess I would say. But when you actually, you know, give somebody your word that this is how we're going to do and this is the vow that I made to you, that means you're willing to put the work in to go through it, I guess I would say.
I got you. All right, so we gonna wrap up soon, but let me ask you this: do you think monogamy works for people because it's something that they were taught?
I mean, I can only speak from the experience of this life is that, yes, it has been conditioned in me and stuff, but ultimately right now is that if I was to talk to somebody else, I just know that I would not feel good. It would nothing
Mm,
about it would make me feel good. It would be a temporary feeling of, euphoria, I guess, if you want to call it that. But it would be just kind of like the hangover after a night of drinking. It's just at the end of the day, it's going to feel worse than it feels good.
I got you. I mean, so me personally, I don't think monogamy is a man's natural disposition, right? But I do think that we can choose to be monogamous. I do believe that. And I don't think it's anything wrong with monogamy because I know I got viewers that's going to watch and they're going to come to me and say, "Hey, I thought you was this person, but you really that person." No, I don't. It's not that I have a problem with monogamy. I just feel like it's not natural for a man. I do feel like that, but I feel like it takes a lot of willpower for a man to choose that. Right? What she say?
I mean, the way that I would look at it was that that's to do things right, it takes the full energy and commitment. And if somebody was to that was I mean, I'm never gonna give anybody else that energy and that commitment. So if something was to arise itself, then that would just be just they're just cheap. I mean, just lack of it's saying it. If somebody that I'm expressing no interest in wants to do something with me like that, that's more of like I said, more of an indictment on them than it is on me. It's a terrible indictment on me if I actually go through with it, but again, I'm not making myself available, whatsoever to anybody. I'm, pretty much, don't really put myself out there to even have that happen because I'm focusing my energies and my efforts just on one person right now. And that, the idea of, which is not even just the one person, it's the us thing, because what's good for her should be good for me kind of deal. So if what I give is what I get.
So I got you. All right. So so I'm gonna say this. It's been a pleasure, as I said in opening statements, and hopefully I can have you on again.
Yeah, no,
But
absolutely. I
it's
look forward to it. Or it was definitely for guys who just chatted a couple messages with each other and just had a little 5-minute
right,
conversation. The second you and I both started talking, we instantly there was no awkwardness. We were just kind of clicking with everything. So
right. And I feel the same, right? But for today, we already at an hour and a half. We're gonna conclude today's episode. I hope everybody that's been viewing enjoyed it, right? I hope everybody tune into Sunday's episode. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. And until the next time, we'll stay in touch. But until the next time, have a good
yeah,
day.
absolutely, man. Appreciate it.
All right, you are.